Third place Bayern Munich against fourth place Borussia Dortmund. Believe it or not, yes, I said that correctly. Third place Bayern against fourth place Borussia Dortmund. Both teams on 15 points, 2 away from the top of the table, Union Berlin. Both won in the Champions League in midweek. They were very good. Kimmich and Müller were out, obviously, in the Champions League, tested positive of COVID just recently. Two incredibly young coaches here, JJ, going head-to-head against each other. Julian Nagelsmann, only 35 years old, and Edin Terzic, who I'm really happy got this Borussia Dortmund job at 39 years old. Both of them kind of trying to find their way at the top. I mean, obviously, we recognize how good Nagelsmann is here, but is he a favorite going into this game against Borussia Dortmund, minus a lot of their stars, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And I think both of them come into this sort of on an overinflated, sense of confidence as well, given the matchups that they had in the Champions League. Bayern absolutely pulverized Plzen, and, Dortmund beat a Sevilla side who, as we've already established, we're basically just waiting for that axe to fall on Lopetegui and for that managerial change to be made. So it is quite a strange one, given that neither of them are at the top of the Bundesliga pile at this time. And I think as well, there is sort of a large element of misfortune to Dortmund's season so far. Obviously losing Sebastian Haller before a ball was even kicked. Fingers crossed that he does ultimately make a full recovery. You've had the injury to Adeyemi, and you also have sort of Gio Reyna, when he can play, he's brilliant, but he's just so fragile, unfortunately. And I think that really, impacts Terzic's ability to actually, work out what his strongest Dortmund side is going to be, and actually be able to push on with them. So it kind of feels like it's an opportunity missed for them at this moment in time, given how slow Bayern have been at the start of this season. And I think for Nagelsmann, the issue has to be that you've now got Thomas Tuchel casting a long and very skinny shadow over the Allianz Arena, because, I don't think that those rumors are going to go away. We already saw Leverkusen links with him. Xabi Alonso has now taken that position. But, it feels like it's only a matter of time and perhaps 1 or 2 bad results before those rumors linking Tuchel with Bayern Munich get even stronger.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. It's a great point to bring up, because I'm just getting this feeling. I know, Mike, we've talked about this a lot, even off camera. There's something not quite right at Bayern Munich, and I'm not sure if it's Julian Nagelsmann. He seems like he's doing well with the executives there, which is not easy to do. To deal with the media there, he's doing a great job, but it's not easy to do. But at some point, I'm just looking at the squad, and I'm looking at why something's not quite right. You wouldn't be able to tell with some of their performances. However, I will say this: it's a big job, and you've got to be able to win. You've got to have success, and that includes also in the Champions League, which of course they're flying pretty high right now. James Benj, I want to come to you on Jude Bellingham's performance yesterday in Sevilla. I mean, just an outstanding performance. We're going to witness probably 2 of the best youngsters in the Bundesliga going head-to-head. Musiala up against Bellingham. 2 terrific youngsters, kind of obviously have that English connection right there. What was your thoughts on Bellingham's performance yesterday as he captained the side yesterday?
Yeah, don't remind English people about what could have been Musiala and Bellingham. I remember before the England-Germany game, the images going around, weren't they, of them playing together at England youth level. I mean, Bellingham is what's wonderful about him is he is a truly English midfielder, thriving in the perfect league for him in the Bundesliga. But these midfielders weren't supposed to exist anymore. It's the Brian Robson, the Frank Lampard, the Steven Gerrard, do it all, and he does it all. The stats, the performances, the progressive passing, the shots. I think he's the first, or is he second in the Champions League in goal contributions? And I think we could kind of really treat that as first, because Erling Haaland doesn't count. This guy really is doing everything and doing it at such a high level. A wonderful footballer. It's only going to be a matter of time, isn't it, before he leaves Dortmund? But I think what's clear is, they are going to do everything that they can to make him into a better footballer and a stronger person, someone that's ready to shoulder responsibility. And I thought it was really notable that even with some pretty experienced players in that team, some people that have been around there a long time, it was Jude Bellingham that they gave the armband to in midweek. And I think the only thing is that the weight of expectation, it's coming for Bellingham. It was a smart move for him in his career to get away from the Premier League early on, so that the conversation isn't maybe a weekly thing, but at some stage, and it's already happening. People in England are noticing how special he is. Des has just flashed up a question here, which I may as well ask as well. That Nigel was saying that Real Madrid was the perfect move for Bellingham. I mean, I would disagree. I've not seen a player I think is more Jurgen Klopp than Bellingham. I think that's the right step. He has to choose carefully, though.
Who does he remind you of, though? If he reminds you of a player, who does he remind you of any player?
I mean, so I've never really seen a huge amount of Robson in action. I'm a little too young. He is what I think of Robson as having been.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite Gerrard or Lampard, because I think the thing is, I would trust him to play with either Gerrard or Lampard, if you know what I mean. It's he could, if I asked him to just play as a six, he would play as a six. It's not like I don't have to curb his positional discipline. I am struggling. I think that you kind of have players on a slightly lower level. I actually think, because people misremember what Patrick Vieira was, I actually think there's quite a lot of Vieira in Bellingham. He's not quite as strong in the tackle.
Bit more dangerous going forward, though, than Vieira.
A little bit. But then Vieira was always more dangerous going forward than people thought. Actually, Mike Lahuda said Paul Ince. I mean, that's quite a good... But it is like Paul Ince, but with a bit of the sort of Gerrard attacking wise. Maybe young Gerrard when he was sort of playing.
I liked your little connection there to Brian Robson, because he's a player that is willing to get into a tackle. He's a player who's willing to push aggressively his teammates around him. He obviously loves to go forward and score goals. He's got quality in the box, as proven against Sevilla with that little scoop. I mean, just brilliant finish that was as well. But he can do the defensive work. He's not frightened in putting in a shift. So he's got it all, which is incredible to me, and it will tell us that his price tag will go absolutely through the roof. And Mike, you don't think that Real Madrid have got a chance of getting him?
No, and JJ said, look who they have. They have young players in Camavinga and Tchouaméni. And Nigel, I know he's watching this, couldn't say that if he tried 99 million times. I would say Tchouaméni, I think, is what he said. But I don't think he's a Carlo Ancelotti player, given what Real Madrid have in their pipeline. That midfield for the future for Madrid is going to be Tchouaméni, Camavinga, and Fede Valverde. That is the hustle with the muscle in that midfield three. I agree with you. I think his future lies in the Premier League. I think his skill sets, that complete midfield package, that is Premier League. That is the modern day Premier League sort of player.
Where in the Premier League, Mike?
Oh, where? Selfishly, Manchester United. Seriously, I know we're all laughing, but seriously, that is the type of player that Manchester United need.
Yeah, but that is more than Manchester United are not the type of club that Jude Bellingham needs.
I've got
they would ruin him, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but that is, if you get a player like that, and I think realistically, I do agree with you that Liverpool, that heavy metal style, but as a United fan and looking at the massive gap in the engine room for United long term, a player who could pick up the ball. The best United teams have had the Brian Robsons, the Roy Keanes, Michael Carrick. I mean, he's a little bit different of a pass master, but at different times, Michael Carrick could pick up the ball and get involved in the attack when he first got to Manchester United. A deep lying playmaker when needed, a box-to-box midfielder when needed, a goal scorer when needed, and a player who can kick someone in the ass when needed.
You got to get in the Champions League for him to have any chance of going. JJ, you got something? Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what galls me more, whether I agree with James Benge with the Liverpool shout and being perfect for a Klopp system, or having to be positive about a player who came through the ranks at Birmingham City. It's quite a conundrum for me. But no, actually, I wanted to take it back to the pre-Bellingham chat. It's a question for you, actually, and obviously being our resident Bundesliga expert. But Bayern is a club where we've seen some very big name managers fail and almost become victims of player power at time. We saw it happen to Carlo Ancelotti. We've seen other guys come through. It's almost like, if the players don't respect you, which might be the case for Nagelsmann, given sort of his very, very young age, which is not, sort of the norm at a club like Bayern. Do you think that there is too much player power at Bayern? And sometimes it's almost like they're dictating who the manager has to be and who they're going to be playing best for.
I don't think player power exists anymore at Bayern Munich. I think what you're seeing is the ex-player power, because if you look at the executive ranks, who they have in charge, who they have behind the scenes, obviously all the way up to former players from 50 years ago still involved at the football club, making decisions for the football club. You have to move on from that. And Bayern have not moved on from that. They're still living in the past, and they're forgetting the fact that the Premier League is so far ahead of the Bundesliga right now as far as money is concerned. And obviously ownership is different there compared to what you have in the Bundesliga. I get that. I respect that. There's also the human aspect of not wanting to have ownership single entity ownership. They want it to be obviously open to supporters to have their opinions, the members voting in presidents, things like that. I love the philosophy and I love the idea and I love how it works in Germany. It just works perfectly. They're a business who are making a ton of money, and I respect that. But Bayern Munich is about winning. Bayern Munich's name, their brand, is about winning. And when they don't win, these guys go absolutely nuts. So they jump the gun very quickly on making these firings. And I don't think the players have much of a say as to who comes in and who goes out. I will say this, though. I spent a bit of time there over the last probably 6 or 7 years. And I was really amazed at how massive Bayern Munich is. And now, listen, I've played against Bayern Munich. And for me, you recognize who Bayern Munich are when you're playing against them. They just act differently. They travel differently. They play differently. The superstars who come through their ranks, sensational names. It's just a brilliant football club. But actually watching their system behind the scenes, what they do, I mean, how they brand their football club, how they brand, I mean, they have an office here in New York City. I mean, it's insane how big this is of a football club. In South America, massive, all the way through Asia. I mean, Africa, they are everywhere trying to inspire, trying to give opportunity, trying to share the brand. They do things the right way. And I'm really impressed and obviously proud to have had a bit of a partnership with them over the years to realize how big of a machine they are. But on the pitch is where my concerns are. Too many players coming through the system right now, and they've sort of changed their philosophy. They used to have, if you remember this, they used to have a rule that they would only sign a striker who was proven in the Bundesliga. That rule has since gone out of desperation. Now they're just signing players that they can afford. They'll try to get players who are in from the Bundesliga who have been proven, but if not, they'll bring in a Sadio Mane and spend a ton of money on him and hope that it works out. Hasn't necessarily worked out for Sadio Mane, even though he has scored goals. He's not Lewandowski. You need to make sure that Bayern Munich are the best team in Germany. And right now, you'd have to say they've got the best squad in Germany, but not playing the best football in Germany. I will say this, though. Some of the guys who have come into the squad who are obviously making their first debut in Klassiker would be obviously Mane, De Ligt, Gravenberg, Mazraoui, all these guys. Big names, youngsters as well. We have to put that in there. This is going to be an eye-opening game from him. We're going to learn a lot about what Bayern Munich are, and of course Borussia Dortmund, because they also have a lot of youngsters, and considering the injuries that they've got, this is a mad game to look forward to. So that was a long way to answer your question, JJ, but I just don't think player power at Bayern Munich is it. I think it's the executives, it's your Oliver Kahns who have got so much to say at the club. Go ahead, James.
Impossible to respond to that. I thought that was very well. That was very well put. I think in the end, like sometimes I know I keep saying this to you, Ian, with Bayern, and obviously someone with more of a numbers bent. I think sometimes they just get a bit unlucky. I think sometimes the forwards are a little bit wasteful, but that's just sort of early in the season Bayern, and maybe that's kind of what they need, because I think too often they're like super hot at this stage of the season, and then it all cools down because there's nothing to play for in the Bundesliga. And it's the sort of same thing we talk about with PSG, that they're not testing themselves at the weekend. I actually don't think it's that bad for Bayern that they've got some catching up to do in the Bundesliga this season.
Yeah. All right. A whopping 342 goals have been scored in this fixture ahead of what will be the 107th Bundesliga Klassiker. And if you look at the goals this season, this is where it's going to be separated. Bayern Munich have already scored 23 goals from the 8 games that they've played. Borussia Dortmund have only scored 11 goals, which is a big concern for me going into this matchup. Can they score the goals? Can it be Jude Bellingham who steps up that one? Let's get a quick prediction before we move on to Arsenal-Liverpool. What do you think about their Klassiker, Michael Lahoud? Who's going to win this game, and give me a score?
Nothing ain't changing for this game. Bayern Munich's going to win. If you look at Borussia Dortmund, what they do after the Champions League games, I think the squad depth or lack thereof of Dortmund, Jude Bellingham, yes, he's playing the football of his life, but the depth is going to hinder them. They haven't gotten a positive result. I think only one game they got a good result after Champions League. I think they're going to be tired. I say 3-1 Bayern.
JJ?
I'm going to go 2-1 Bayern, and I think it'll be a late winner. I can see this one being tighter than we expect, and Bayern just going to get it done at the end.
James?
I'm going to agree with Mike. 3-1 Bayern.
Sorry, boys. I'm going for Borussia Dortmund to get the win in this one. This is a big game. Klassiker. I mean, listen, I want to see how good Bayern are. I'm betting once again against Bayern Munich. They've proven me wrong already. But I will say this. There's something wrong at that football club. In big games, you'll get found out. This is a massive game for them in the Bundesliga. If Borussia Dortmund go above them in the table and Bayern end up like match day 9 and 8th place in the Bundesliga, we're going to see some big moves. So maybe it's out of hope than anything else that something crazy happens in the Bundesliga.